Just around the corner from here, carved into the northern facade of the music building, there are some words by Longfellow. They say, "To charm, to strengthen, and to teach. These are the three great chords of might." Now, I love teaching in that building, but these words, music is charming, but charm is not music's primary asset. And three great chords of might? Really? When the time comes, I suggest they replace the Longfellow with an equation. Music equals sound over time. Because that's what music is, sound in time. Someday I'll gladly give a talk about sound, but we don't have time to talk about sound, so we'll talk about time. Experiencing time in music. And so I'm beginning by saying, things take time. How is that? What does it even mean to say things take time? Seen the other way, it's not really time that's being taken from us, but rather time that seems to be doing the taking. And what time takes is everything. This night, your youth. Someday, your youth, the city of Cambridge will be taken. Time also takes this. Where is that music now? Is it gone? Is it simply absorbed into the surrounding air? Music differs from the other arts in its temporal nature. If you stand before the Mona Lisa and close your eyes, I can assure you it's still hanging on the wall of the Louvre. But once you finish singing your favorite song, you can make a case that it simply ceases to exist as music. It might be notated in a score, encoded in a recording, or preserved as a memory, but if it's not being sounded in time, it's not fully there. Now, many of you use music as entertainment, to dance, to accompany your studying or working out. The students that I've had that are here know that I'm wildly entertained by music. But using music as a form of entertainment is like using your iPad as a paperweight. The entertainment, even the joy that music provides, is a byproduct of its ability to use sound to manipulate our perception of time. And by engaging with music in time, we can learn about life. For example, in music, multiple thoughts coexist in time. As I speak now, you follow me sentence by sentence, but in music, two independent lines can play out against each other simultaneously, and this is called counterpoint. And good counterpoint occurs when each line articulates itself vividly against the others. As one line reaches its climax, the others are still developing. Here's a simple example from Johann Sebastian Bach, one of the greatest musical thinkers and human beings of all time. First, I'll play one line of counterpoint, and then I'll play the other, and then the two together in context. And now together. Someone in here is having her best day ever, and sitting next to her is someone who feels like she's having her worst. That is counterpoint. And this emotional duality is the basis for some of the finest music ever composed. You know, just then the melody in my right hand repeated itself exactly, but the counterpoint in my left hand changed, creating a very different emotional context. That's another lesson that music can offer you about the progress of your life. Sometimes you change without changing, because your sameness reacts differently with a world that has changed around you. Allow me to speak personally for a moment. I am primarily a composer, and if works of music can be said to be about anything, my works are essentially about time. They also involve acoustic science. I study musical time in great detail using a powerful sort of acoustic microscope developed by Olivier Sen at the Hochschule Lucerne in Switzerland. With it, I take millisecond-level rhythmic measurements of iconic musical performances. This means I locate the moment in time when each sound comes into being at the level of 1,000th of a second. This practice, as you can imagine, takes a lot of time. 1 month of work to measure 2 minutes of sound. But I then use mathematics to proportionally stretch out these measurements and ultimately transfer them back into standard musical notation, which provides a kind of photograph of a performance. And then I compose my own music over, under, inside, and around the transcription in a process that's being called musical photorealism. These compositions have a multi-layered relationship to time. On a sonic level, you hear 2 times simultaneously. The background, which is the slow-moving, time-stretched transcription of a performance, and the foreground, which is the fast music that I compose on its surface. On a historical or cultural level, you hear 3 times simultaneously, since embedded in my score is a piece of music from the distant past, say 1830, a performance of that piece from a later era, say 1920, and the music that I've composed around it, say in 2011. And my score itself gets performed and interpreted by musicians on into the future. Once upon a time back in 1939, standing across the street in Lowell Lecture Hall, Igor Stravinsky, dressed in a tuxedo, said, "Everyone knows that time passes at a rate which varies according to the inner dispositions of the person and to the events that come to affect his consciousness." Now look, we rarely have the chance to experience time together, and when we do, it's usually adorned by attention-catching images, games, or speeches, such as the ones you'll hear tonight or the one that I'm giving you right now. Stillness and quietness, on the other hand, are very much part of music, and they're normally experienced in solitude or at times of mourning. But stillness and quietness can be experienced as a kind of music. So let's try that. We don't get so many engaged and well-educated folks sitting together in one room that often. And so whatever your inner disposition is at this very moment, I would like to have us experience some time together, quietly. After all, nothing puts one in touch with the passing of time better than the release from being spoken to. We'll experience some time unadorned. Don't count, just listen. This is what Sanders Theater sounds like on February 17th, 2011, when it's filled with people sitting quietly and listening. Okay, come back. And now I'm ending by saying, as you return to music in your headphones and at concerts, I ask you to engage more deeply with its ability to teach you about your life, that you pay careful attention to its unfolding, to the details of its sound, to its counterpoint, and that you attempt to experience time in music. And this takes effort and concentration, for music, it seems to me, passes through our perception the way a three-dimensional sphere passes through a two-dimensional space. It's never wholly within our midst, but emerges and recedes like the monument of another world.